Hello, YouTube land. This is Brenton coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Before we get started, if anyone out there has a story that they would like to share here on this show, then you can contact me at brentonsawin@gmail.com. I will leave an email address in the description also. If anyone wants to contribute to help me make this show and bring these shows to you, you can go to a link in the description, PayPal me. Every contribution is very much appreciated. Thank you. Now, the winner of the C2 charger Thrunite product that has the battery, you can, charge the battery for other flashlights. It's a really big battery. It's bigger than a double A, a little smaller than a C, but it's a 3400 mAh battery. But anyway, the battery goes inside this. You can charge it up for your flashlight, or you can use the little cable. After you're done charging this, you would put the small side in right here and plug this into a charger. You can charge it from your computer, or maybe even your cell phone thing. It's got directions in it. I assume you can do that. When the cell phone things use this type of hookup. But after you get the battery charged, this little light will light up that's on here. It'll go from red all the way through like purples and till it gets to blue, and then it's fully charged. And then if you want to discharge and maybe charge your phone or your iPod or something like that, you can hook the big side up here and hook this to a phone. I don't really have this battery charged, but you can hook that to your phone, and then you push this little button right here, and it'll discharge, and it'll start at blue and go down through the colors to red as it discharges this battery into the whatever you're charging up. Very cool product. Comes with the little bag you can carry the stuff with. If you're going somewhere and you need to charge your phone up, or whatever you need charged, it's a cool little thing to have. All right, today we have some Dogman and Bigfoot stories from a Native American fellow. I said you don't have to use your real name because his wife didn't want him, even coming on the show or anything. So he just said you can call me Anonymous. So we're having Anonymous on today, and he's also going to work on gathering up stories from the tribal elders and stuff like that, and come back on, and that would be super cool. And he said, yeah, I would really like to do that. So I'm looking forward to that happening, and hopefully I can have a few of the other Australian fellows back on and share some more here soon. I have one guy who is going to get permission from the Aboriginal elders and is wanting to come on and share some of the dream time stories and of the Bigfoot. They have three different types. They say that there's three different types of huge beast type that's 10, 12 or up. The 8-footer kind is like the regular Sasquatch, and then they say that there's a Junjidi that's a little 3-footer type. And I think here in America we see the similar. We call them little people because there's footprints. We've had a few people on that's talked about that. And then we have the Sasquatch, and then there's a huge type that seems to be more like the Kandahar giant. Sometimes they look a little more human, like a Neanderthal. I had one girl on one time, I think it was a story from Utah, and she said it looked like an ogre, so it had more human look. And yeah, and some people call them mountain giants. People have been talking about that a little bit here lately, and they tend to be a little nastier, bigger, and anyway, I hope this guy does get the permission from the Aboriginal elders and come on, and I hope this other guy today that we're talking to gets permission and comes on to share the Native American stories from his tribe. And anyway, hope you all enjoy the story. Congratulations to G. Hopkins, and thank everyone out there who subscribes to this channel and has been supporting me. What a fantastic year I've had. The channel has grown tremendously and it continues to grow. Thank all of you who share, like, and contribute and make it possible to take this show to another level. Thank you. Enjoy the story. All right, Anonymous, if you would, I'd like for you to tell us the area in which you live that you had these encounters at.
Alrighty. I live in northern Oklahoma, which is a plains area. It's farmland with timber here and there. It's not a lot, but it's mostly farmland. So, but there is woods and there's like a lot of rivers. In the area I live in, there's 2 rivers, and it's Arkansas and the Salt Fork. So there's plenty ways for these creatures to get around, that I think.
Right. Yeah, there's lots of reports of, Bigfoot. And I did some Chicken Man stories here from Oklahoma recently, and
Reno?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that was an interesting story, wasn't it?
Yeah. I like that story. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I like all these stories are just fascinating to me. Now you had an encounter here real recent, haven't you?
Yeah, it was about 3 days ago, actually.
Yeah, that's if you could, I guess let's just start with that one and tell us what happened.
Alrighty, I'm just going to give a little background information. My wife is a CNA. She works at a town that is 15 miles away from where we live at. So she works 12-hour shifts, and that's from 6 to 6 a.m. And she's not that great of a driver, and, working 12 hours, for 7 days in a row, she gets pretty tired. So I drive her. Well, it started out as a normal night. Took her to work. I usually wake up about 4:30 in the morning, and here in Oklahoma, if you don't like the weather, hang around for 15 minutes because it will change.
Yeah.
Pretty much is how it is. But a cold front came in, Arctic blast or whatever they call it. It came in and it was warm during daytime, but that came in about maybe 12 o'clock, so it was really, really foggy. The way the weatherman described it was freezing fog. And, I really didn't think nothing about it. I just got up, 4:30, got ready, hopped in the car, and started proceeding on my journey to go get my wife, which she got off at 6. It takes about maybe 45 minutes for me to drive there. So I left the house about maybe 5 o'clock. I went there, no problem. The only problem was that the fog was so thick. I'm sure you heard this term before, but it was so thick that you could cut that fog with a butter knife.
Right.
That's how thick it was. And honestly, I was going down a highway. It was a 2-lane highway, and I was only doing about 20 to 25, 30 at the most, because I was worried about hitting the deer. They're here often, and hunting season, so they're out trying to move around when the hunters ain't trying to be awake too soon. And I figured, the fog is perfect cover for them to, do their business. So I was very cautious. So I was only going I'd say 30 miles per hour at the max. So I made my way there, no problems, didn't have no deer, nothing. Picked her up, 6 a.m. This doesn't, it might relate to it, but I'm not sure. But my wife, she said the residents of her nursing home were being very weird that night. And one was talking about, I guess a ghost was in their room and wouldn't go to bed. This was about 2 a.m. She said she kept complaining about this little boy kept coming out of the closet. So my wife went in there and said, look, we don't have children here, trying to explain to them that we don't have children in this nursing home and that, just go to bed. It's okay. Well, when my wife walked in there, she said the closet door kind of, cracked open like somebody was looking at her. She didn't think nothing about it. But then the residents start telling her about that. And whenever my wife starts saying that, we don't have kids here, just go to bed. It's probably just your imagination or whatever. That door slammed shut.
Wow.
And her nurse, her DON, director of nursing, heard it down the hallway. That's how loud it was. Well, anyway, she gets the resident tucked in, she leaves, and she's like, walks back to her little station, and her DON asked her, said, why was you slamming doors down there? Then she explained what was going on, and, that's kind of weird or whatever. But we was talking about that as I picked her up, that morning about 6 o'clock. It was about 5:50 when she got off, and we start heading out of town. Well, Native American way, if you talk about, a ghost or spooks and, beings, stuff like that, it kind of, I guess, to put it better ways would be like jinxing yourself. It's like calling them, giving them power.
Huh. Yeah, it's kind of like invite and kind of opening a door up or something.
Yeah. Giving them power, giving them knowledge and stuff like that.
Right.
So, anyways, we're just going on, and I'm listening to tell a story, and I listen to you, and I listen to Vic Condiff, and Sasquatch Chronicles, and a couple other stories, YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I was like, this is like the perfect setting for something bad to happen, encounter of some kind.
Right.
And she's like, what? She said, well, don't tell me that. My wife, she doesn't like stuff like that, and she doesn't really believe in it. She's Caucasian, she's white.
Yeah.
And from Irish descendant, stuff like that. She was born Catholic and raised Catholic, and she just doesn't try to acknowledge stuff like that.
Right.
Anyways, we're leaving town, and this town that we're leaving, it's a 2-lane highway, and as you're leaving town, they got their cemetery right there. It's I'd say a 1/4 mile length on that highway is how big that cemetery is. And like I said before, it's very foggy. Like I was only doing, like I said, 30 miles per hour. I was at the tops. I'm just kind of cruising. We're discussing that stuff, and I'm telling her it's like, oh, this has the makings for a horror movie, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we reached the end of that cemetery, which was on our left, and we was cruising south. There's a couple businesses and maybe 1 or 2 houses at the end of it. It's like not sparsely populated, but after we get there, it's like, just like cornfields and timbers and creeks and stuff like that, to feed the cattle and whatnot. So we reached the end of the fence where the cemetery is, and like I said, I was just kind of, talking with her, trying to get home because I want to go back to bed because I got to get up to take my kids to school. And all of a sudden, like I said, I was heading south. I seen this figure. It was very black. And it came into the roadway and it scared me because I thought it was a deer. That's something that we got to watch out because deer are very often will run out to a roadway, they see headlights and, they just freeze. So I was worried about hitting a deer. I thought it was a deer at first.
Was it on all fours?
At first I couldn't make it out, but I almost hit it. I almost hit this figure. whenever it came into my headlights, all I seen was this, like I said, it frightened me a little bit because I thought it was a deer. I wasn't thinking Dogman, nothing like that. I was worried about hitting a deer.
Right.
But as it came into, in front of my car, I slammed on my brakes, and I had my brakes on so I could see very good.
Right.
This figure was completely black. And this fog, fog's very white, so I could see this creature very good. Well, the way that I felt, that I perceived, was that, it was trying to use the fog as a cover to get on.
Yeah.
And, it was trying to get across the road, and I felt that I caught it off guard. Because whenever I slammed on my brakes, it moved faster. And the best way I could describe this creature is, I'm sure everybody watched National Geographic. It looked like a hyena. It was very, very buff at the top. You know how the hyena's legs kind of tuck in, but the arms are longer in the front?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it looked like. Well, whenever it got completely in front of me and I slammed on my brakes, I started from the head. I looked at the head and worked my way down. It was a dog. It was a dog's head. The ears were back, and it had a big snout. But as I worked my way down to the shoulders, it was very broad. And I know other people say that, it's very buff, like muscular.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it could have just been the fog, because like I said, it's maybe about 5 or 10 feet in front of me. But it looked kind of lanky, skinny.
Right.
But the arms went down to the ground, and it seemed like the back end, they was dog style, but they was kind of like tucked.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, this is just in a matter of seconds, just observing what is going on.
Right.
So I'm witnessing this, and as I almost hit this creature, it started moving faster. And the best way that I could describe that is kind of like it was using its front arms, but like if anybody ever been to a zoo and seen a gorilla run, how they kind of run funny and their arms are kind of hanging in the front?
Right, yeah.
It looked like that, except it was using its front arms to run also. And, my wife also seen it, and, she was like, she screamed, and she looked down immediately. She didn't want to see it. But I kept looking. And as soon as it got, in front of my car, I realized what it was. It looked like for better words, like a werewolf.
Right.
And it made its way across the road, and, after I stopped and after I realized what it was, I immediately hit the gas and got out of there the best I could.
Right. And you said that it looked similar to the painting that I have with that one standing in the road by the deer?
Yes, it looked exactly like that.
Yeah, that's a creepy looking. I kind of caught the perfect shape for the lanky type. It seemed like, and what can you kind of did you see his hands?
I did not, because of fog, and like I said, I didn't see the hands, but I seen the arms, and the arms were. I'll put it this way: the best way my car is it's a '91 Caprice. It's a big car. This thing was, if I had to estimate from what it was, I'd say the shoulders were at 5 feet, the head was 6 feet, and this thing was just massive. I'm not talking like, wide or nothing, because I've seen it from the side, but if I'd have hit this thing, it definitely came into my windshield.
Was it about 6 foot, even though it was leaning kind of over where his hands was close to the ground?
Yeah, it was leaning forward, but I'd guess, on all fours, this thing was like 6 foot tall.
Wow, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
Did you notice any eyes or anything, or any teeth?
The fog was just so thick, and the only reason I did see it that good is because like I said, I almost hit this thing. And once I realized what it was, I let it get across the road, and I smashed the gas and tried to make some distance because I didn't want to have to deal with it, honestly.
Right. So was it just crossing the road, or
that's what this is just my opinion. I believe that it was trying to use the fog as coverage to cross the road, and like I said, I couldn't see maybe 10 feet in front of me. That's how thick this fog was.
Right.
That's how thick the fog was, and my personal opinion is like I kind of caught it off guard, and then that's whenever, like I say, whenever I almost hit it and I hit my brakes, it moved a little bit faster.
Yeah. Was it crossing the road perpendicular, or was it kind of going down the road a little bit and across?
Oh, it was straight across.
Okay.
Yeah. And this, like I said, it was just like, as soon as that cemetery ended, that's where it was crossing. And like I said, when I first seen it, I thought it was a deer. That's how come I kind of freaked out. I was like, oh man, I want to hit a deer, because you know how deer, they do damage to cars.
Oh yeah, they can total a car, that's for sure.
Yeah. And if it's a buck, the antlers, they have no problem coming through a windshield. So I was worried about that. But even my wife, after I slammed on the brakes and I let this thing cross, and I immediately picked up speed, she said, "Was that a dog?"
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and I said,
your mind wants to try to rationalize it, don't you think? I mean, yeah, I think she probably just wants to make herself think that it was a dog. But is this the first time you encountered one of these?
Honestly, this is probably the third time.
Okay. Wow. And all of them were in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think were all of them near like the cemetery and stuff like that, or different areas?
No, I have a fishing spot that me and my sons go to, and it's pretty much, out there in the sticks.
Right.
And it's kind of on a bridge going across this river to where, we can see the fish in the river. So, we try to lure them in, but, the birds, they kind of nest under it. Yeah. So they're used to eating bird droppings and not taking our bait. So I've been going there for 3 years trying to get me something.
Yeah.
But they're just not biting with the bait. I've tried several different times, But we was out there, and we had a strange occurrence. But the second time that I encountered it was I was telling my buddy about Dogman. Because, I listen to the radio shows and whatnot. And, he kind of, scoffed at it and laughed around. And I said, well, I can take you to a spot where there's a Bigfoot. We had some Bigfoot encounters out there on that bridge. He said, oh, yeah? Just like middle of the night, we just got off work. And he said, well, I got some gas money. I put some in. Let's go out there. So I said, all right. Went and got some soda pop, filled up, went out there, and I call it a police light. One of those mag lights, real bright one.
Yeah.
We went out there on top of this bridge and just kind of, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, we was trying to do some Bigfoot calls.
Yeah.
You know, just see if anything will respond. You know, like the whooping and the that type of stuff.
Yeah.
We tried doing that, and you know, we wasn't really getting nothing, so we started leaving. Well, you know, my buddy, he was hanging out the window and he had that big flashlight. He started shining the tree line, and as we left that bridge, I'd say we was probably about 50 yards from it, and then there was a timber line, because you know how trees grow up along the river.
Right.
Well, he was shining like that, and he said, what is that? And, you know, I was thinking Bigfoot, because that's what we was trying to track. Well, he said, because I was driving, I was trying to concentrate on driving, and at the time it was a 6-speed standard truck. So, you know, I'm shifting gears and whatnot. You know, I'm trying to concentrate on driving because we were on a dirt road. And he said, it looks like a giant dog. You know, my blood kind of ran cold at that.
Yeah.
And I said, a dog? He said, yeah. He said, hold on, there's 2 more of them. I guess that dog was sitting there, then 2 more came up.
Wow.
You know, it didn't take me too much, you know, figure out in my brain that, you know, we called something else and not what we was looking for.
Right.
So I was like, you know, I popped that clutch and we got out of there.
Did you get a look at them?
I wasn't even trying to look at them, just as notorious as I heard they were. I didn't want to see them.
Dang. Were they standing up or on 4s or?
The way my buddy described it, he said, one was sitting down like a dog, like a regular dog would, and then he said 2 more came walking up like men.
Darn. Wow, that's scary.
Yeah.
So you've actually seen like Bigfoot there on that at the bridge there?
Yeah. Well, I didn't see him, but I heard him.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, this was, you know, like in August and September, whenever it starts cooling off a little bit more. Me and my sons, like I said, we've been going there for 3 years trying to catch fish. And these fish, they're just stubborn, trying to catch catfish, but there's like a lot of alligator gar there. You know, they snag the line and take your hook and bait.
Right.
So, just being stubborn, you know, it's like, I want to catfish. So we'd go there and, you know, we'd fish probably from 12 to, I'd say 10 at night. After that, I'd give up because, you know, my kids are very young and they, you know, they need their sleep.
Yeah.
So we was out there fishing and my wife would come along. Well, the bridge is probably about, I'd say, 100 yards long. And I parked my car at the end, kind of by some timber. Like I said, you know, the trees grow up high. And she would sit in the car and read a book while me and the boys were on the bridge trying to fish. Well, it was just getting dusk, you know, the sun going down, the sun dropped, but you could still see it's summertime, so it's probably about 9 o'clock at night, but, you know, it wasn't dark, you know, you could still see. Me and the boys were there, and I was about ready to give up. Then all of a sudden I heard a sound like a giant tree snapping. It was like a very crisp snap, like, and, you know, it got our attention. I was like, what is that? You know, the boys they was asking me, like, in my head, I said, what is that? And they was like, what was that? I was like, I don't know. You know, we still had our lines in the water and stuff, and I said, go ahead, start reeling those in. We're going to leave. So they start reeling them in, and all of a sudden I heard, I didn't understand it at the time, but I guess it's called whooping.
Right.
You know what? That whoop, 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 that stuff.
Yeah.
But when I heard it, my brain couldn't comprehend it. It's like my brain was trying to figure out what this noise was. The best way I could describe it was it sounded goofy to me. It was like it didn't sound like the Bigfoot, the Bigfoot calls I heard on the internet and stuff like that. It was just like whoop 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 like that.
Almost like someone
And
talking.
yeah, kind of like that. But it was like it had that whoop to it.
Hmm.
And I was just sitting there, just listening, and the boys were listening, and like I said, my brain couldn't comprehend what was going on, and I was just sitting there trying to figure out what that noise was, because I heard, several wildlife animals before, and like I couldn't understand it. It's like, what is this? Well, I guess while this was going on, my wife, like I said, she was back in the car reading her book. She said that when that loud snap happened, she said she heard it sounded like a freight train going through that underbrush over there in the timber. Just carry on. It sounded like a large animal running around. And I believe she got hit with an infrasound, the way she described it to me. She said she was sitting there, and then all of a sudden, she said she felt the car vibrating. She had like the windows like halfway because it's summertime, like whenever it's like cool but not too cool and hot but not too hot. So she was sitting there reading that book, and she said it felt like the car was vibrating, and then it increased to where it said, she said it felt like all the air in the car got sucked out, and that like we had a leather interior or vinyl, something like that. She said it sounded like after the air got all sucked out, she said it sounded like the vinyl and the leather stuff started like drying, like cracking and drying, like
Wow.
like as if all the moisture in the air got took out.
That's interesting. Hmm.
I mean, I never heard of that before either, but that's the only thing I think of is that it was just infrasound.
Yeah, I mean, infrasound can do quite lots of different things. I know that there was a lady that I had on the show about a year ago, I guess. Her and her husband was down at the river fishing. It was over in Texas though, but not too far from you. And um, something threw a huge rock. It was like a big slab of a rock like basketball size, and
Yeah.
it landed close to them, and they kept fishing. And I was thinking, darn, if a rock that big lands near you, you're gonna, why didn't you all figure out what's going on? And they said, I don't really know for sure, but she said they ended up getting up because they heard something across the river, and so they end up getting up and they're headed towards the vehicle, and I guess she gets in the vehicle and he's coming behind it, and this thing roared, and it vibrated him so bad when he got in the truck, he could not stay awake. He fell asleep, and he slept for like 30 minutes while she was panicking. Um, and, so the infrasound can do all kinds of different things, and I've heard of it vibrating. On one case, it vibrating the metal tin ceiling inside the house, and the where it was growling at the window. So
Yeah.
I could see it doing that to the seats. Very very interesting, and some people wonder if they're doing that subconsciously, um, like if they're sitting there watching you and they're and you because sometimes people will hear like a droning, like, and so people have been speculating whether or not they're kind of unconsciously doing that or if they're doing it on purpose. I think they do it both ways, but it they sometimes hypnotizes people and lulls them into like a stupor, or makes them forget, and they'll go almost all the way home and then remember, like, hey, I was just at the river or something like that. But
Yeah.
I was going to tell you that there was another judge I had on the show. When he was 13, he was crossing a bridge down there in Oklahoma. And this is why I think the Bigfoot were coming down there that river. And he came up on the bridge in his little truck, and he seen something squatted down in the road on the bridge, and it had a green glass bottle in his hand, and it was like looked like it was hitting something with it with this green glass bottle. And finally, it looks over and sees him in the truck, and he stopped, and it stood up, and it was a Bigfoot, and it jumped over the bridge, and it was only like 8 feet or so down to the water, but the thing had a gar, and it was processing. It had cut that gar in quarters with that glass bottle. That it
Really?
broke it. Yeah, it was using the glass as a knife, and it had cleaned that fish. So I bet you that's why they were coming down there to get those gars.
That's very possible because like that river, they got some good blue cats in there, but mostly the gars was what was going for my bait. And like I said, being stubborn, trying to fish there for 3 years, but all I
Yeah,
was getting was those gars.
right. Yeah, and I bet you. I know that there's a lot of people down there in Oklahoma that do that noodling. Also, they'll get down in the water and stick their hand in holes up in the bank. So
Yeah.
I bet you those Sasquatch come there and noodle and catch gars, and because those gars they swim close to the top, don't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, from where we was, you can just see them in there, and
yeah,
they weren't little in that. And I'd say there's like 12 pounders.
right. Yeah, be a good source of food, I reckon.
But after all this, that event that I said that happened, my wife, like I said, she's a very big skeptic. She doesn't believe in the paranormal or creatures or nothing like that. She just blocks it out. What she did was she just turned the key onto the car, rolled all the windows up, and ignored it.
Right.
And when this was going on, like I said, I was up on the bridge and I could hear that. I don't know if it was language or just trying to scare us off or what. But I told my oldest boy, who was 7 at the time, I told him, hey, go down there and tell your mom we're about to leave, bring the car up here. Because I didn't know if she heard any of that stuff or not.
Right.
And now that I think about it, being Bigfoot in the area, that's kind of dumb, sending my youngest son down there. But, I didn't understand what was going on, and I couldn't comprehend what that animal was, so I wasn't scared or nothing like that. So I just told him to go down there, and she drove the car on the bridge, and she didn't say nothing. We loaded our gear up, and, we started leaving and driving off, and like I said, we was a good 5 miles out from a graveled road, a paved road, and it wasn't until we was almost halfway back to town that she said, "Did you hear anything out there?" Then so I told her, "Yeah, I heard it sound like a giant tree fell or snapped or something," and I start describing that weird whooping noise to her. Then that's when she told me what happened. And I said, dang, you're pretty brave. I'd have turned that key and drove up there and got us.
All right. No doubt. Yeah, I bet they were coming down there for the gar, huh? Or
Wow.
whatever fish. They were coming down there fishing, I reckon, huh?
I
Well,
imagine what it was is they probably seen my wife in the car alone, and, being a female and all the males were over there, quite a distance away. They might have been trying to get her. Who knows?
yeah, that
That,
would.
that, that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, well, you might be right, man. You never really know for sure. Um, yeah. What other sightings or encounters have you had down there?
Well, shortly after that, she told me that, and I was like, dang, I think this was about a year before I took my buddy out there and we tried to, look for Bigfoot and whatnot. But I said, dang, I think we got a little Bigfoot spot. And like I said, I listened to all them shows on the internet. So I was kind of curious myself. You know, I went out there with my phone and I tried my best to imitate those Bigfoot calls I heard, you know, from on the internet. You know, the, oh, you know, that.
Yeah.
And then the whoop, like that. You know, in the middle of a bridge with my car running so I could make an escape, though, in case something did come. But I had my cell phone out, you know, running and recording, and I was doing that, and the best way I could explain it is it sounded like I lured in like a giant pack of coyotes. You know how they yip and they go on about their business and just make a big ruckus.
Right.
That's what it sounded like it was coming my way. But the yipping stopped and it turned to very deep growls. And then it sounded like a giant fight broke out. Like, it sounded like, you know, whenever dogs fight, the growling and the snarling, and that's what I heard. And there's just my opinion. Like I said, I don't know for sure, but I got it on video. My wife deleted it because, like I said, she doesn't want nothing to do with that and in denial. And I wish she wouldn't have did that. I wish I still had it because I'd give it to you. But it sounded like whatever those creatures were, they encountered something and they were fighting for their lives. And whenever they was fighting, they didn't sound like coyotes no more. They sound like lions. They sound like, in my opinion, it sounded like I accidentally lured in Dogman, but the Sasquatch were already there, and then they started fighting. After that, you know, after I heard what was going on, you know, I immediately got in the car and I left. I was like, I'm not trying to mess around with that.
Sometimes you'll hear you'll hear like the Bigfoot make a coyote type noise, or it'll make some kind of call, and you'll hear another one call from another area, and they get the coyotes going. And what I think they're doing is they're hunting them. Uh, like the coyotes are coming along or whatever, and one of them will make a sound and get the coyotes yelping, and then it'll run them towards the other ones, and you'll hear them kind of working together like a tree knock or something, and it's like it's coming your way, you know, and that kind of stuff. And you'll hear the coyotes yelping and going crazy, and then you'll hear one of them go yelping like it's getting taken, you know, I mean, getting killed, like, you know, it'll turn into, that I've heard that told several times.
Well, whenever that happened, though, it wasn't like a yelping; it was a snarl. It was like I said, it sounded like a lion. It was like a whir. I mean, that could have been Bigfoot, so I don't know, but I mean, it just sounds scary as heck, and I was like, I'm not sticking around for that. And whenever I was doing those calls, you know, I could hear them like way off. It sounded like they was far off, and then they start. It took about 10 minutes for them to get, you know, close enough to where I could hear that. And even at that, they was probably still like 200-300 yards off. So I was like, that's close enough for me. I left. I mean, you know, describing this, it kind of sounds like I'm playing with fire, you know, and I didn't want to get burned.
No, there's a lot of Bigfoot, and I mean, I guess some dogmen too down there in Oklahoma. That Steve Bledsoe guy, that was where he had his farm when they were kids, and they had him pretty bad around his house. It was, you know, throwing rocks and stuff, and they threw his dog through the window of the house. It was one of those real big dogs. I forget what you call them, but they let it outside, you know, like it was going to go run the snooper off. You know, they didn't know what it was outside at first. And the thing picked that big dog up and threw it through the window into the house, you know. But he got hit with infrasound, and it almost hypnotized him. And when he snapped out of it, it roared. And I've had his brother on too later to tell his version of it. And he said that roar was so terrifying that it messed him up till this day. And that happened when they were little. And yeah, I've never heard the roar of one, but I don't think I want to. I've heard a roar. I don't
Yeah.
really know what it was that roared, and I'll tell you what, it was so scary. But it was more of a different kind of encounter that I had when I heard this roar. But the roar that I heard was so loud, it was so long and so huge sounding that I didn't want to see what the heck was making it, because I really thought if you were to look at whatever is making that sound, you would die. You'd just have a heart attack. So that happened at the house I lived at, and I moved that day. I'm serious. It happened early in the morning, man. I packed everything and I left. I didn't even stay another night in that house. Like, heck with this place.
Yeah.
But, so I can kind of imagine what the roar, the way people have described it. It's. I heard a roar that was so terrifying it made T-Rex on Jurassic Park sound like a kitty cat. And but you think being like a Native American, do you think um, do you think that these things are kind of attracted to certain peoples, or do you think you're more sensitive to seeing stuff like that or noticing it?
Well, honestly, this is gonna sound a little messed up. Like I'm Native American, I'm full blood. But
Mm-hmm.
my wife, she's Caucasian. Like I said, she's from Irish descendant. Fair skinned and
Yeah.
red hair, all that good stuff. Whenever I go out in these woods, she doesn't like it because I said I got the perfect bait. They seem to be attracted to her.
Oh,
Like I can go out in the woods with my boys, and they're half Native American and half Caucasian, and nothing to bother us, nothing to come around. I wouldn't hear nothing. I wouldn't get no bad vibes. I wouldn't be fearing nothing. But if my wife comes with me, it could be that she's female too. I'm not sure. But whenever she comes with us, it's like they're attracted to her, and I'm not sure why.
yeah, yeah, I've heard that. And also children too. Like they're curious, they want to go look at children or women. That's what they say. And
Yeah,
I think there might be something to that.
yeah.
Um,
That's like I said. You want to have an encounter? Let's take my wife. We'll go see something weird.
she might not like it too good, huh? It's like, yeah, let's go camping
Oh
down there
yeah,
at Land Between the Lakes. Huh? Just don't
yeah.
tell.
Ever since then, she honestly, we used to live on the reservation, but since then we moved, and she's not trying to go back to the woods anymore.
Yeah. Did you notice like there was activity like on the reservations more than other places?
Um, there's always been activity there, and they say Native Americans don't want to talk about it to outsiders. I don't believe that's true. I just think most people don't want to listen. You know,
Yeah.
but even as a teenager and as a child, I've encountered a lot of strange stuff out there, and
Yeah.
it wasn't that hey, I seen this thing, and oh well, we never seen that or never heard of that before. It was oh, you seen it too,
Yeah.
type of thing.
Right. I love when I
And
have Native people contact me, because they always have something, some cool stuff, and sometimes too they get stories and things passed down to them from the elders, and that's always just super cool stuff.
oh
Did
yeah,
did you all's
uh,
tribe have a name for the Bigfoot?
uh, Bigfoot, he is kind of like our boogeyman. Don't go out at night, don't go into the woods, don't wander too far, don't stray too far. Because, you know, then, you know, parents, they always use, oh, Bigfoot likes bad kids. He'll come and eat you.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, he was a boogeyman. That I heard it before, and, you know, I can kind of relate why people said booger. They call them boogers, you know, boogeyman, booger. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But, you know, probably youngest time I encountered him was whenever I was like 5.
Oh, really?
I was out there at my grandmother's, and both my parents worked, and my grandmother, she was a homemaker. She stayed home, and, you know, they lived out in the country, and, you know, as long as I didn't wander off, you know, or try and, you know, leave or nothing like that, they let me have free roam. I can do whatever outside, and they had a pretty good little spread. And one of the scariest things I remember was I was outside playing, and I was probably about 100 yards from the house. Because, you know, whenever you got like a lot like that, you know, you usually try to cut the grass down back as far as you can, and then whenever, you know, you feel that you got enough area, you know, that grass just grows wild, and that Johnson grass can get, you know, 5, 6 feet tall, no problem.
Right.
But I was out there playing, you know, just messing around, just being a boy, you know, looking for bugs or just looking for something to do. And I remember this, at the time, I didn't know what it was or how to explain it or describe it, but I thought it was a man. This man was watching me.
Right.
You know, and it scared me. So I started running back to the house. You know, I was going to go tell my grandma I was scared. Well, this man, he started running towards me. I'm running towards the house in a straight line, and best way that I could say is like he flanked me and cut me off, and he reached down with his arm. He tried to grab me.
Darn.
But I tucked and rode, you know, and I guess he couldn't bend down that low enough to, you know, while he was running, he couldn't bend down low enough to grab me, and he missed me. But I tucked and rode, and I kept going. But he ran into the woods, and I ran to my grandma.
Darn. Dude, that might have been a close call for you.
Oh,
Man.
It was very scary, and, you know, like I told my grandma, she said, well, quit going out there that far. You know, I told you stay by the house. That's all she said to me.
I mean, you know, there's kids come up missing, you know, and people wonder what happened. Did you get a look at it and kind of remember what it looks like at all?
Oh yeah, it was a Bigfoot for sure. But at the time and at my age, I didn't know what I encountered, and, you know, honestly, it was kind of one of those recessed memories. It wasn't until I got a little bit older and did a little bit of research into it that I realized what I encountered.
Yeah. That happens a lot.
On that very same property, I remember another time, it was maybe a year later, half a year later, and like I said, you know, they cut that grass back as far as they could until however they felt was safe. And I remember my grandma had 2 sons and a daughter, and 2 of my uncles were outside with shotguns. And, you know, I was bored, just a little kid, you know, and I was like, oh, they must be going hunting. So I walked out there on the porch with them and said, hey, Aunt, you know, what you guys doing? They said, be quiet, boy. Go back in the house. Well, you know, being a kid and being ornery, I didn't listen. I act like I went back in the house, but I just kind of stood by the doorway.
Yeah.
They had spotlights. This was at nighttime, and they were shining that timber to where they cut back to. And I remember I heard this, I guess it was at the time I thought it was like a scream, but I guess it was a Bigfoot roar.
Mm-hmm.
Just in that grass, there was a Bigfoot standing there hollering.
Wow.
And, you know, I guess my grandma sent them out there because she was scared, and they had guns and stuff. But from what I understand now, it probably wouldn't have did us no good if that thing wanted to attack.
Man. Depends. I guess it depends on how many. I mean, it depends on what kind of gun too. But people have killed them, you know. But usually something will come out of the woods and grab it. You know, I've heard of that before. But
Yeah.
so I guess they knew about these things out
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah, they knew about it.
The
And another
old
story.
the old grandmothers, they always know, don't they?
Well, my grandmother, she never was scared of it. She didn't fear it, and it didn't bother her.
Right.
She always said that she had a strong medicine, that her medicine would protect her, and those creatures can't touch her.
Right. Wow. Interesting. Huh. What? You started to
That's
say
what
there's
she
not.
always said.
You started to say there was another story.
Yeah, in that same area, one night, I guess something happened, and one of my other grandmothers, she was out there visiting, and her ride couldn't come and get her, so she said, "I'm gonna walk home." And this was kind of like in the middle of nowhere, and where she lived was a little bit town, you know, one of those peep and plum towns, you know, peek around the corner and you're plumb out of town.
Yeah.
And it was about 15 miles away, so she said, "Don't worry about it, sister. I'm just gonna walk home." So she started walking. Well, about 30 minutes later, one of my uncles showed up, the oldest one. She said, "Hey, your auntie's walking home. For some reason she couldn't get a ride home. Go pick her up on the highway. Give her a ride home." So he said, "All right, I'll go pick up Auntie." So he started cruising down this highway. It was a 2-lane highway that led to his town. He said he was probably about 3 miles away from that house, and he thought he seen his aunt. His headlights picked up something. So he slowed down, and I mean, he wasn't going fast to begin with, but he slowed down even slower and kind of came up on it slowly. He said at first he thought his aunt was wearing a black dress, but I guess it was a Bigfoot. This creature's fur, and you know, as he got closer, he hit the brights, and that's whenever he seen this thing. He said it was all hairy and tall and just walking along that highway like a person, you know, and it scared him. So he hit the gas and he went along, and then about 100 yards in front of that, he ran into his aunt, my grandma. And
Wow.
I guess that thing was stalking her. So he told her to get in, and they rode out of there real fast, and he told her what happened. Anyways, that night he took the long way home. He didn't want to go back down that highway.
Was the thing walking down the road toward her?
I'm not too sure, but he said it seemed like that creature was stalking her.
Man, dude, that's not good.
Yeah, and this was like at 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And that highway, you know, it's a rural highway, and you know, cars rarely ever come, so you know, hitchhiking would have probably been out of the question.
Right.
I mean, it's a good thing he came home and was able to pick her up. You know, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah, because they don't usually walk on the road. They must have been walking on the road, coming up behind her, so it didn't make snaps and noise going through the brush. You know.
Yeah.
Man.
And that's what he said bothered her or bothered him is he said he could clearly see that it was a animal and that had long fur. Well, I guess fur. He described it as hair though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whenever he went around it, that thing didn't budge. It didn't stop its stride or nothing. He just went around and picked her up. So I mean, from what he said and the way he explained to me, I guess that thing wasn't scared of him.
Right. Wow, that's scary. When they don't even care if you see them. That's sounds like some kind of aggressive rogue ones. Have you ever heard anybody come up missing in that area?
Not necessarily missing, just a couple close calls, people walking in and encountering something and, trying their best to keep their wits about them and get to where their destination.
Right. I mean, you had a close call when you was a kid. I mean, the thing tried to grab you, and it ran on into the
Yeah.
woods after it missed you. If it had got you, I
Yep.
guess it would have took you on in the woods,
Yeah, ain't no telling what it did. Probably ate me.
Yeah, that'd be horrible. My goodness.
I wouldn't be here telling the story, I know that.
Right. Maybe your grandma's good medicine was helping you there. you know. Yeah.
Well, to be a little bit more on that, my family, their clan is a medicine clan. So, we all got a little bit of it. At least that's what I perceive from my teachings.
Yeah.
But, I mean, maybe it could have grabbed me, but I didn't do it. Who knows?
Right. Huh. Yeah. There's one lady was on the show here. She was at her grandmother's. She was Native American. I forget what tribe. It seemed like Cherokee or something. She was like half Cherokee, and but she was a little kid. I think like 7 or 8 or something like that, and she was playing out in the yard, and a Bigfoot came out in the woods and was standing there staring at her, and she said it was looking at her as if it was wanting to take her. I mean, that's the kind of feeling she got, and so she ends up running in the house and told her grandma, and the grandmother said, "That's one of them Bigfoots. You stay inside." And she said, "Put this perfume on, and so it'll cover your scent. It's trying to get your scent." And that kind of confused her, and so she puts this perfume on so that it would cover her scent. That's what grandma said to do, so that's what she
Yeah.
did. And she ends up going home to where she lived over here in Lexington, where I live. And this was back in the 70s. And it was maybe a week later. She was playing outside on the edge of town here, and she looked over into the basement, one of those doors that kind of go down into the basement, kind of a split level kind of lot,
Oh, yeah.
And she seen 3 sets of glowing eyes in the basement. And the dog was
3 cents? Holy cow.
yeah, and the dog was because she was trying to get the dog to come out of the doghouse, and it wouldn't. It was and she thought it was strange. And when she noticed those eyes, then she knew why the dog was scared. And anyway, those things lived in the basement for a while, and she kept trying to tell her mom and dad, and they kept telling her to quit making up stories and stuff. And they started coming in the house.
Really?
Yeah, and then when it would walk through the house at nighttime, it would like shake the floors, and her dad would yell at her, and finally one time because their back door was broken, they had it propped up, and it stayed like that for a long time, so she was always scared, and it started coming in the house, and um, 3 of them came in the house one time. She was laying there on the couch, and she was like just praying, it was like, oh please, and
Yeah.
she was seeing through the blanket. It was one of those little shawl type blankets, and it came over there and touched her like it was seeing if she was there, because she was hoping it didn't see her. But anyway, it ended up flipping the bed another night. It came in the house and reached in and flipped the bed of her and her 2 cousins. And I remember her saying, "I told you all, Bigfoots is living in the basement." Because they were like, "Why didn't you say something?" It's like, I've been trying to tell y'all, the Bigfoots is living in the basement. And of course her dad and her mom wasn't in the room. She was saying this to her cousins, and turned out one more time they seen it looking in the window at them, and after that they never did see it again. But I thought, man, that's some messed up stuff when they got Bigfoots living in your basement. You know what I'm saying? And
You know what? I might have a theory on that.
okay,
The tribes around here, like say we see a dogman or Bigfoot or deer woman or something like that, you're always supposed to ignore them. You're not supposed to acknowledge them because it, Indian way, if you acknowledge them, it gives them power, and it could give them power to take you. But if
wow,
you ignore them, if you go about your way and leave them alone, they'll leave you alone.
hmm.
That just something to ponder.
Yeah, 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 interesting. And you might be right about that. That's especially if there's some type of spiritual nature to them of some type. Like maybe them being hybrid Nephilim or something. The dog man, heck, I don't. I'm not too sure that those aren't completely. I mean, I know they're physical and they hunt and they eat and stuff like that, but
You know
spiritual
what always
beings.
kind of made me curious about that is how come they're so hard to kill? I've heard stories about people, shooting them and trying to
Right.
kill this beast, but they seem invulnerable to bullets.
Yeah, no, and that's what makes me think that they might be completely supernatural. But whenever you say that, most people will think, well, no, they're physical. Well, I've talked about it a few times where the Bible talks about different kinds of flesh, and it actually talks about angels. They actually have bodies. The ones that don't have bodies are actually demons. They're disembodied spirits. But an angel, they can sit down and eat with you. You can entertain them unaware, and manna was food bread that was given to Israel in the wilderness for making cookies and breads and stuff like that. That was food that angels eat. So angels actually have body. Apostle Paul said they have bodies, but the glory is different. So I think that the dog man might actually be a supernatural being, but it has a body and it's trapped here on earth. It can't leave necessarily. But the glory of those bodies are different. So it's not easy. I mean, it'd be like shooting an angel. Could you kill an angel? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I mean, the bullet would hit it, I mean, because they have bodies, but I don't know really what it would take to kill an angel. So, I mean,
Probably not mortal weapons.
right, yeah. It would take some prayer to deal with that, and that's probably why the prayer works against the dog man so much. You
But
know,
I'll give an example of, like I said, about dogman being shot. My uncle, he was tribal chief of the tribal police, and they was having problems. I was real young. I barely remember this. But he was having trouble with they said a giant dog. They didn't call it a werewolf or nothing like that, but just terrorizing the reservation. And I guess one night the tribal cops there was tracking this beast, and they thought they pinned it down there at our tribal dancing grounds, but we had a river that ran right along by it. They said this beast jumped in the river and swam across and emerged on the other side. And, they wanted to dispatch it and get rid of it. They got tired of it. They thought it was maybe just a giant wolf or something. So all these tribal cops, they pulled their sidearms and rifles and 12 gauges, AR-15s, or whatever they might have had, and they unloaded on him. They said that this beast stood there and took all these shots, and it was on all fours at the time, and I guess it just stood up afterwards and sauntered on and did its own thing. That's like I was kind of curious about that.
yeah, I've heard stuff like that. I've heard
And
also that they've been killed, but I mean, who knows what they had to do to kill it? You know,
yeah,
there might be some that are hybrid. You know what I'm saying? And because I think if they're ever hybrid, like a Nephilim, then you can kill them because Israel killed Nephilim all the time. But yeah, very interesting, man.
That's something that I find troubling. It's just so hard to kill these creatures. And most of the time, what my tribe does is Navajos and other tribes like that, they use sage. Well, we use cedar to bless ourselves, and we call it fanning off. Fanning off the spirits and keeping all the evil away and cleanse us. And we do that to our house. We burn cedar and get our house clean, and it's kind of like a spiritual armor. Nothing to mess with you.
Huh. Yeah, I've not heard of that before on the cedar aspect. Huh.
It's
I've heard of people encountering the dogman and they said they smelled cedar, like they said it smelled like cedar. But that was only one time I've heard that though. I think that was when that sergeant guy came on the show.
yeah.
Maybe
But
someone used some cedar against it or something.
I don't know. But that like if we got a ghost or something, a poltergeist or a demon in our house, we'll burn cedar and we'll pray and and tell them that you're not welcome here. You're not welcome in the house. Our Lord's welcome here. You gotta leave.
Right.
Christ, this is His house, not yours. You gotta leave.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. That works every time for sure. I'm
But
glad to hear you say that because I didn't want to get preachy with you, but,
yeah.
Jesus can do it every time, bud. That's for sure. Well, we're
Well,
up a little over an hour, man. Yeah,
oh, really?
you got any last something you want to say?
Um, keep your faith strong. If you encounter one of these creatures, you know, try not to be afraid, and if you can, get out of there without being harmed.
Yeah, no doubt. And pray while you're getting out of there.
Yep.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Ignore them is the best way to do, because like if you encounter a Bigfoot and you act like you don't see it, I think they typically won't even mess with you.
Well, I'm Dogman. It seems like they enjoy that fear. They get off, making you scared and terrorizing you. At least from
Yeah,
what I read and heard.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
ignore them, you kind of take that power away from them. But then again, you could make them mad, and they could do more. Who knows?
yeah.
They seem like very unpredictable creatures.
No doubt. That's for sure. Yeah, they're scary. I hope I never encounter one of those. That's for sure. Um,
Well,
yeah, and
honestly, Brenton, whenever I seen that thing, I was a little excited, but I was also scared because I didn't want to be stranded on that road with that thing.
yeah, no doubt. It would be horrible. I
But
can, I'm,
shoot, I still drive that road every day now, so
yeah,
I ain't seen another one yet. I think that was just a rare occasion. So hopefully,
yeah, yeah. Well, it might be like you said. It might have been linked to that particular night. With your wife seeing that sounded really scary, man. That something seemed like it opened the door, cracked it, and was looking. It's like, dude, that's a scary scenario right there. Looking at you
yeah.
from the closet. Goodness, that's
Well,
horrible.
she's got plenty of stories about that, but I'm sure people are more interested in Dogman.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people ask me to get the ghost stories too. I mean, if she wants to come tell them, that'd be fine with me. The
Well, like I
supernatural.
said, she's in denial, I suppose, and
Yeah,
if that's how she has to cope with it, then that's fine with me. I'm not trying to
yeah,
put
yeah.
on the
That's
spot.
might be better.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming and sharing with us, and collect some stories out there on the reservation, and holler back at me.
All right, not a problem. There's plenty of stories out there.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that much.
I'm serious. I would love for you to do that. I've got one guy that's he's getting permission from the elders. He's a Aboriginal guy from Australia. I've been trying to get some Aboriginal stories and from Australia, Bigfoot stuff, and I've had a couple here recently. He's getting permission, and he said he was going to bring some stories from the Aboriginal people down. I thought, man, that'd be awesome. And if you can get some stories from, the reservation, man, that would be awesome, man. I would love to hear it because I think the elders and stuff, I think they know more than most of us. you know.
Yeah. Well, all my aunts and uncles, and I got a few grandmas left. My aunts and uncles are in their 50s, and my grandmas and grandpas, they're pushing it. They're about 70. So I'm 28 now, but whenever all this stuff happened, I was a little bit younger, more adventurous.
Yeah. 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 I see if you can ask your grandmas and stuff if they got any good, stories and stuff, and holler back at me, man. We'll have you on.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, buddy, and I guess everybody out there in YouTube land, thank you for listening, and like and subscribe, comment, and all that. And if anyone has a story they would like to share, contact me at brentonsawin@gmail.com. If you want to contribute, help with this channel, you can go to PayPal me link in the description and contribute. And until next time, God bless, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.